So hi everyone, I'm Serena G. I am the owner and founder of Sense and Forum, no-nonsense community management. And today I'm going to be chatting to you about how to get your community started and things to kind of consider in the process. So a little bit about myself. I've got a 15-year career in event management and marketing. And obviously when COVID hit, the event management career needed some new considerations. So I decided to create a new brand over lockdown called Sense and Forum. I went freelance in 2019, and that was after I had a burnout and depression from a previous role. So creating this business and getting it to where it is today is an absolute blessing for me, and there's nothing else I could imagine doing right now. And if you haven't already noticed, you might have picked up a bit of an Australian twang when I speak, but I have spent 7 years in London before. Now I live in Cyprus, so I'm coming to you from sunny Cyprus, which is really exciting, and I'm kind of living that remote work dream that a lot of us have been doing anyway over the last 18 months. I just decided to accelerate it to a more sunnier place. So a little bit about Sense and Forum. I mentioned it launched this September, just then, and it came about over lockdown when I was like, I need to niche down, I need to figure out what I focus on, and community management was something that was really resonating with me, and it was quite transferable, so all my skills from event management and marketing I transferred into the creating Sense and Forum. And we like to help startups and support startups, putting people before profits. When I want to talk about communities and educate people and teach people about how to create their communities, it's all about giving you the tools that you can take and go away and do it yourself. And I'll obviously be here to support and guide you along the way. And I hope you find, if you are following me on social media, on Instagram, the content that I put out there really helpful. So how do you know if you need a community? Well, do you have an email campaign? Do you have a mailing list set up? Do you have social media channels? Are you hosting events, workshops, or courses? They're all things that communicate to people, and they're really good indicators that you're actually managing a community. And if you're feeling the need to bring those people into a group, like the community that we're all in here with the Organised Entrepreneurs Club, then that's a clear indicator that starting a community or creating more of a community vibe for your business or your brand is right for you. So you're already on social media channels, you already have your mailing list. What's next, and why are we focusing on community over regular marketing when we're talking to our audience, our customers? And it's because community has more of a sense of loyalty, customer retention is higher, you increase your word of mouth opportunities, and it also creates a more trustworthy and more human experience for the people that are engaged in your brand and your business. So I think taking a more community-led marketing approach is the way to go, and I think we're seeing more of this as we come out of lockdown. The relevance of connecting, being a part of a community, feeling like you're a part of something and believing in something is something that's resonated with a lot of people. So I want to chat a little bit now about kind of the difference of community management and community marketing. So community management is the process of building and growing your community, whereas community marketing is the tools that you use to facilitate that. So I'm going to go now into the 6 senses that I've created, and I call them the Sense and Forum 6 senses. So they all start with C. So we kind of like to rhyme and do fun things. And the 6 senses are cause, creation, content and conversation, collaboration, change, and care. And I'm going to go through them individually now. So we're going to start with your cause. So I've got little cards. Oh, there we go. See if you can see that. And the cause is to understand your community and its purpose. So when you're thinking about your community and starting it, and you've realized you're building your newsletter list, you're building a following on social media, and you've got people attending your events, and you're wanting to then kind of nurture them in a community, what is your why? And why do you want to bring them into this community? And understanding the purpose of bringing together and having them in a consolidated group so they can feel like they're a part of something. So knowing your purpose, your values, to establish who's in your audience and where they are as well is really important. So knowing if most of your audience is on Facebook, or do your audience more engage with your newsletter list, is really important in understanding your purpose of your community and where you're going to communicate to them and how you're going to bring them together. So the next one is creation. Let's see that. Okay, so it's setting up your community and the platform. So like I said, knowing where your community is and how it is they already engage with you. So what platforms do you want to use? Do you want to use Instagram, Facebook? Do you want a private portal that links to your website? And so people might not be on social media, so a private portal might be better. Are they engaging with you in newsletter? If you're starting your community, what I would advise is to select 3 of those, so you're not so overwhelmed with the number of social media platforms that might be available. And I think a great way to kind of get the community started is having an email, having a social media channel, and then having that private members portal, which may be a Facebook group, and just to keep things really simple and seeing how it grows. And you can always adapt and change to your community needs along the way. But starting with the 3 things is just a kind of a nice way to launch your community. When you're also thinking about the creation of your community, it's important to set up some guidelines. So some do's, some don'ts. How do you want your community to interact with you? Facebook, when you set up a community and it has the guidelines in there, it says no bullying, no spam, no selling, things like that. Just considerations so that people in the community will feel like they're in a nurtured and trusted environment. And then comes the structure and of the community. So what content are you creating, and how are you providing that content to your community? And a rule here would be to stay consistent. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time to continually post and engage in our community, so post in your community when you feel like you do have the time, whether it's once or twice a week or 3 times a week. You don't have to post every day of the week, and a community will essentially manage itself if you provide them the initial tools to engage within that kind of structure. So that structure could be anything from Motivation Monday, what are we going to do this week? Or on a Wednesday, you could check in with your community, ask them a question, what they're struggling with, and on Friday, celebrate your wins. And then you've already created that initial conversation that the people within your community will start conversation around that. So that's a great way to kind of start the engagement within your community and get it going. And then we move on to step number 3, which is content and conversation. So keeping your community engaged. So I just mentioned, 3 kind of posts that you could do within your private platform. But how do we keep that community engaged and posting and chatting amongst themselves? And it's all about their initial kind of onboarding when they come into your community, and how you've made them feel from the moment that they've arrived. And I always recommend welcoming people. So set up a welcome post, highlight who's new and what they do, and do a bit of an introduction so they feel like they have a space to talk within your community. And ask questions to your community. So don't talk at them, talk to them, and pose content in a way that they can respond. For example, telling them 3 facts and not giving them any kind of question to kind of consider how that might work within their business. So here's an example of when you are engaging with them. So you could go, here are 3 facts. How do you feel about these? Is there anything else that you would like to add? And then you're making them a part of the conversation. And then encouraging networks, so online events, and in real life events, so people can meet. A really good community that I'm in, they encourage meeting, like a coffee roulette, so they encourage meeting a person and they match you up, and then you go away and organise that phone call on your own. So just providing platforms or simple platforms like that for your community to start networking is also really important. And I always say there's 3 types of times where people will engage in your community, and it's when they might have an opportunity to promote themselves or what they do. So people love talking about themselves. When they want to help someone, so if someone's posted a problem and they need a certain type of expertise, say it's a graphic designer, that graphic designer's then got an open platform to start chatting and get in touch with that person. And another one would be when they talk about something that they're confident in. People don't like to talk unless they're confident. So if you're creating a space that is using simple language, a nice tone of voice, and giving people the power to go away and feel confident about the topic, then they're more likely to engage with you. So I was having a conversation with someone the other day actually about, how do you bring people in and make them feel like they are a part of it and can feel confident enough that they know what you're talking about. And it's about giving them a piece of information, allowing them to learn that piece of information, and then going away, and then they take that and go, I learned this the other day, you should join this community because I found it really interesting. So empowering people with information is really important in community. And the last one, which we don't want, is people are quite likely to complain. So if you're a service provider or a product, and you have an open forum where people can kind of give you feedback on your products or services, we kind of want to avoid that. And I think that's why instead of having these forums for feedback, you kind of bring people more into a community and allow them to play and adapt and feel a part of your growth process as well. Like they have helped you get to where you are. That's essentially a nice part of being part of a community. So the next one is collaboration. So no one can, where am I going? Going backwards. There we go. No one can do community on their own, especially if you're a small business owner, and say you're a yoga instructor and you've built a following of 6,000 people. You want to do what you're good at, and that's teaching yoga. And your community is really important. So managing that Facebook group needs attention and engagement, and you might not be able to do that all the time. So you need people to collaborate with you. It's important to set up partnerships. So, align yourself with a brand. So, for example, if you are a yoga instructor, align yourself with Lululemon and do a partnership with them. Get them talking about you so they can help support you and your community. If you're looking for ambassadors or advocates, when you first start your community, who's chatting the most, highlight them and approach them and say, thanks so much for your contributions to my community. I would love if you could be an ambassador and talk about my community, and making sure you're giving them the tools to do that. So, if you want them to post on social media, give them a social media toolkit with a few posts and some wording to say, because you don't want Chinese whispers and you don't want the tone of voice or your brand kind of perception to change when other people are talking about you. So make sure you're giving the ambassadors and your advocates the tools. And that's a great way to kind of increase that word of mouth marketing by having these ambassadors and advocates. And then we're going to chat about change, which is a big, important one. So as we go through the community management life cycle, things will change and adapt all the time. And social media and the portals and Facebook groups will give you analytics and statistics. So take them on board to understand, when if you're posting in the community, are you getting really high engagement with some posts, or are you not getting any engagement at all? And maybe change the days around. Or if an element in your community isn't working, for example, if you're posting on a Friday, follow Friday, and you're getting no engagement whatsoever, put a survey out there or a poll out there and ask, is this relevant to the people within my community, and see what they say and see what feedback you generate by asking these questions. And by asking these questions and analyzing the community and creating these surveys, you're giving people a voice and you're giving people a say, so then they will, it's another way to make them feel a part of the community, and that they're helping you grow and change and shape your products and services. And the last one, which is really, really important, is care. And I don't just mean care for your community, because you can be supportive, you can listen, you can check in, you can respond, but and your community will grow, and your community will feel like they're in a trusted environment. But you also need to care for yourself and set boundaries for yourself and communicate them clearly to your community. So the way I would suggest to care for yourself is to, setting those guidelines, and in those guidelines, maybe you tell people when you're available, that you only respond during the week, and maybe you only respond during 9 till 5, you don't respond at 10 p.m. at night. As long as your community are aware of that and when you're going to be available and how they can contact you, then you're setting nice boundaries for yourself. Turn off your notifications when you don't want to be notified and interrupted by the community. Hire help if you need to check in and engage with your community on your behalf, so you can get away and do the work and do what you're good at, and manage your business as well, because your business also needs time and attention, not just the community. I think it is super important to set these healthy boundaries from the beginning. And maybe, you're starting to learn when the best time to chat is, and when your community is most engaged. So kind of adapt, maybe your day around that as well. So say if your community are more active at 6 p.m. There's my cat, sorry. Maybe adjust your day slightly, so you have, that you need to be in your community at 6 p.m., but you're giving yourself a break before and after and things like that. That's about all I have, and I have done this before in an hour workshop, so we do get together and we can nut out the processes and ask more questions, and you will have like a workbook, and then by the end of it, you know what you need to do to go away and start your community. And if you want to get in touch and chat more about community and how it can help support maybe what you're thinking about starting, or what you already have started, you can just email me, and I'll put all the information in the chat now. That's my email there. And hey Caroline, it's alright, hopefully you can watch on replay. But if you are watching and you have any questions, feel free to kind of pop them in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer them, or you can email me in the email address I popped there. with any questions you might have. You can also check out my website, which is just sensenforum.com. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is at sensenforum. Yeah, that's great, and it's really important. And especially, if you've got a young family, or so Caroline's just said she sets all her notifications off, and it's important to feel in control, and you want to make sure that you're feeling in the room or present with the people that you're around and not distracted by the notifications. And I think even just generally with social media, no one's waiting for a response straight away. People know that you're busy and you have things to do. It's not the end of the world if you get back to them in 24 hours. But I think the best thing to do is just say, my response time is 24 hours. And it just eliminates any kind of stresses that you might have, and puts them in control of knowing that they'll get an answer from you. You've let them know about, you've notified them to say, got your email, it's been received, or I got your notification's been received. We'll get back to you soon. So yeah, that's really important. I'm going to end this now, but this has been great. I'm glad I ripped off the bed.